She came down the stairs barefoot holding 2 swimsuits, one red, one the kind that looks like it's made of dental floss, and asked which made her look more like she's over him. I didn't ask who he was. Dana stood in front of the mirror, twisting at the hip like she was auditioning for someone who wasn't me. Eli's name hadn't come up for months, not since that wine-fueled dinner party where he called me reliable, like a Volvo. Dana had laughed so hard she spilled her Pinot on the rug I paid to clean. Now, here she was again, brushing that same shade of lipstick she wore when we first met, only slower, more deliberate. Her voice floated over her shoulder like a feather dipped in acid. Don't wait up too late while I'm gone. You've got your crossword puzzles and oatmeal, right? I didn't blink. I just folded the paper I wasn't reading and set it clean, emotionless. The way you read a weather report. If you go on that trip with him, I'm out. She froze for a second. Not long, just long enough for her reflection to catch up with her ego. Then she turned around, that little smirk already crawling up the corner of her mouth. Oh, please, Marcus. You're not the dramatic type. I nodded. Exactly. She didn't understand then. Probably thought I was posturing, one of those empty threats men make when they're cornered by their own silence. But she forgot the one thing. I never stopped being patient. Dana thought my stillness was weakness. She never realized it was containment. She twirled her hair again like she always did when she wanted to dismiss something without looking like she cared. I need a break from all of this. I need to breathe. You don't want me resenting you, do you? I looked at her for what felt like the first time in years. Not the curated version she posted on Instagram. Not the woman I walked down an aisle with. The real Dana veins just under the surface. A little twitch in her cheek when she was bluffing, and that fake lightness in her voice when she was buying time. You already resent me, I said, but you won't after this. She laughed louder than necessary. You going to divorce me because I'm going to a beach with an old friend? No, I'm going to walk away. You can keep calling it friendship. Just don't expect me to keep calling this a marriage. She shook her head, grabbing her phone off the counter and pretending to text someone, probably Eli. Probably sending a message like, "Guess what Grandpa just said?" I didn't care. Not anymore. I had rehearsed that line for 6 months. Practiced it on drives to the grocery store. Whispered it while shaving. If you go, I'm out. Not yelled, not pleaded, not sobbed, just delivered. The power wasn't in the threat, it was in the absence of negotiation. And maybe that's what startled her. The stillness, the absence of begging, the way I didn't follow her up the stairs or ask what time her flight was. I just went to the kitchen, made myself a coffee and watched the steam rise like I was witnessing a cremation. Quiet, controlled, final. That night, she packed fast. She blasted music in the bedroom like a teenager trying to rewrite the mood. Eli says it's going to rain, she yelled, half laughing. Guess I'll have to wear less. I didn't answer. I wasn't in the mood to compete with ghost laughter from a man who thought my quiet made me invisible. Eli wouldn't recognize a storm until it pulled his roof off. Next morning, she walked past me in her airport athleisure, dragging a pink roller bag I bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. She stopped at the door like she wanted me to stop her. Instead, I reached into my back pocket, pulled out a folded slip of paper and placed it gently on the counter. She didn't even look at it, just scoffed. I'll text you when I land. I didn't nod, didn't blink. I just looked her in the eye and said, no need. The front door clicked shut behind her like the last sentence of a book neither of us were brave enough to finish. She didn't look back. just tossed me a half smile over her shoulder. Like we were still playing house. Like this was just another round of her. The kind of smile that says, "You'll be here when I get back because you always are." She didn't notice I hadn't made coffee, that the crossword wasn't open, that I wasn't even sitting. I was waiting as her Uber purred away from the curb. I stood motionless by the window, watched her disappear into someone else's weekend. She looked like freedom. Aviators, yoga pants, earbuds in, already curating her first photo caption. Probably something self-congratulatory. Sip in peace or reset mode on something rehearsed. Once the taillights vanished, I walked to my study. Second drawer left side beneath the useless warranties and old insurance policies. The envelope was still there, still sealed. Plan D printed in block letters across the front. Not Plan A. That was marriage. Plan B had died in couples therapy when Dana said, "I just don't think emotional loyalty is sustainable." Plan C had been silence. Now we were here. Plan D wasn't a tantrum. It was an architecture. Layers of documents, contingencies, timing protocols, not to punish her, but to uncouple efficiently, quietly, strategically. The envelope contained the full trust restructure finalized months ago, but not yet filed. A quick claim deed transfer for the beach house. She never asked about a new lease agreement pre-signed by a tenant I had vetted for over a year. A letter addressed to Clark and, when law offices with only one line underlined, initiate. Effective immediately. I took it out, smoothed it on the desk, and looked at my hands. Steady, no tremor, not even a flutter in my chest. Then I picked up the phone. First call went to Gregory when 6 rings. He answered with the usual dry tone that said he was mid-chess match or divorce court. Same energy. "Proceed," I said. He paused. "Today she's airborne." Click. That was it. No explanation needed. The man's retainer had been quietly bleeding my account for over a year in preparation for this exact call. No billable hours wasted on pep talks. Second call. Rachel, my niece, our only regular houseguest. Dana barely tolerated her, always calling her quiet and a little judge. Why? That's because Rachel actually noticed things like which side of the bed Dana started sleeping on when she stopped touching me. Like the 6 new outfits Dana bought after bumping into Eli at that dumb art gallery. "Is it time?" Rachel asked. I smiled. The first real one in weeks. "Yeah. You good to meet Anna?" "Already on the way. He's where you said they'd be, in the kitchen, hooked by the stove." "All right. I'll stay until she's settled." We hung up. I returned to the envelope, slid it into the FedEx packet already addressed and prepaid, walked it to the door. No drama, just logistics. As I sealed the flap, I caught a glimpse of Dana's handwriting on a post-it near the fridge. "Pick up almond milk," smiley face with a heart she'd drawn too perfectly, like it was part of a brand campaign. I didn't remove it. Let the heart sit there like an artifact, the last relic of a woman who believed I'd never move, never act, never leave. Because I didn't shout. Because I didn't throw plates or scroll through her phone at 2 a.m. But while she was sipping cocktails with Eli, letting him put sunscreen on her back like it meant nothing, I was sending the final paperwork of a life she no longer belonged to. She packed for the beach. I packed her exit. 3 days in, no calls, no texts, no fake just checking in messages from Dana. Not even one of those passive-aggressive selfies women send when they want to look like they're glowing without asking if you're looking. Instead, it came from my sister. Text message. No greeting, no emojis, just, "You okay?" Attached was the photo. At first glance, it was what you'd expect from a woman in a fresh rebellion. Dana in a neon bikini holding a plastic pineapple cup, half turned toward the camera, half twisted towards someone just out of frame. Her hip popped like she was modeling for people who were supposed to regret her. But it wasn't the pose that caught me, or the drink, or the fact that Eli was behind her shirtless, leaning in with the same smug half-grin he wore the night he called me dependable like airport Wi-Fi. No, it was the caption. Cheers to never settling. I didn't react right away. My sister probably expected anger, shock, some emotionally wounded emoji barrage. Instead, I stared at it like a puzzle. Let the silence in the room stretch. Then I tilted my head and zoomed in. Her sunglasses, mirrored aviators, bright, obnoxious, the kind influencers were to hide how empty their eyes are. And in that reflection, barely visible, was a table. Not a poolside lounge table, no umbrella, no beach towels. It was a restaurant. White linen, candles, 2 wine glasses, and a man's hand resting on hers, not Eli's. The watch on his wrist was different. Silver face, black band. Eli wore that gaudy smartwatch with a cracked screen, the one he kept tapping like it owed him money. This man's hand was older, tanned, confident posture, and her fingers weren't just resting. They were curled toward his palm. I pinched and zoomed until the pixels gave way. There in the corner of the table, a bottle of Chateau Margaux, $600 a pop. Dana doesn't drink red, so this wasn't just a beach brunch with Eli, the safe friend. This was a dinner, a real one, intimate, candlelit with someone who wasn't supposed to exist, a third party to her alibi. And she had posted it like a trophy, never realizing that arrogance turns every detail into evidence. I set the phone down, no anger, just detachment. She thought the bikini would hurt me. She thought the caption would sting. She thought Eli was the poison. But Eli was a distraction. The real betrayal was always her pride, the part of her that wanted to be seen winning, even when she had to manufacture the scoreboard. My phone buzzed again. Rachel this time. Short message. Anna settled in, curtains up, keys duplicated. You're good. I texted back one word. Perfect. Then I returned to the photo. This time not to inspect her, but to appreciate it for what it was. A snapshot of someone who had just given me full permission. She wanted to burn the bridge? Fine. She just forgot I built the whole damn town around it. The apartment was never supposed to matter. We bought it 7 years ago, back when Dana still talked about investing in something low risk. She called it her bored housewife fund, said it gave her something to brag about during brunch without needing to actually lift a finger. But after the paperwork was signed, she never set foot in it again. Not once. Never asked about tenants. Never saw the new floors I had installed. Never noticed when the mortgage was quietly paid off. She had no idea that by the time she was posing in pool chairs with men who weren't her husband, this place had already become something else entirely. An exit strategy. I pulled into the back alley behind the unit. Clean, quiet, discreet. The kind of place no one posts on Instagram, but everyone remembers when life turns sideways. The windows were spotless, the new curtains drawn. There was no damage to repair, no memories to erase. Just blank walls and fresh paint. A clean slate. A stage. Anna was already there. She stood by the door dressed in tailored slacks, a cream sweater and a scarf tied like she meant business, but didn't need to prove it. She didn't look rushed or curious. She looked like someone who had lived through enough nonsense to know better than to ask too many questions. Marcus, she said. I nodded and handed her the keys. She didn't fumble or pretend to be surprised, just slid them onto her ring with a soft clink, like she'd already lived here in her mind a dozen times. "I've left the lease agreement on the counter," I said. "Initials on the last page, signature at the bottom." She followed me in. Everything inside was ready. The living room was staged subtly, nothing flashy. A coffee table with a hardcover book about landscapes, a single orchid by the window. The kind of apartment that looked lived in without ever really feeling like home. The kind people drive past and never wonder about. Perfect. Anna walked through each room silently. She wasn't trying to be polite. She was measuring, testing the echo, checking the angles. When she returned to the living room, she picked up the pen and signed. "Do you want a deposit?" she asked. "No," I replied. "The rinse token." The lease is binding. That's what matters. She gave me a curious look but didn't press. That's why I chose her. Anna came recommended by someone who understood discretion. She had no criminal record, no messy history, no ties to Dana's world. A former real estate executive who'd walked away from her last firm the moment it went public. Retired early, widowed, no kids. Like quiet things. I walked her to the door. Before she stepped out, I said, "It's yours now. Just don't mention me to anyone." She smiled. Not warm, not cold, just enough to say understood. "Silent as Sunday," she replied. The door closed softly behind her. No click, no drama. Back in my car, I opened the glove box, took out a small envelope. Inside were 3 photos, one of Dana on the beach, one of the sunglasses reflection, and one of Eli standing too close with his hand on her hip at some tacky pool bar. None of them angry. None even overly sexual, just careless. I placed the envelope in the center console, not as evidence. As a reminder, this wasn't revenge. This was alignment. Dana had chosen the stage. I just made sure the audience was watching the right act. And Anna, she was the first cue. The moment her plane touched down, Dana's fingers were already moving. Landed. "Want to grab dinner?" Sent with a sunglasses emoji and a winking face. Her usual cocktail of fake chill and anticipation. She probably thought I'd fold the second she came back, like I'd been pacing the living room in robe and slippers, whispering her name into an empty wine glass. She waited 5 minutes, then 10. Still no reply. Tried calling straight to voicemail. Her lips curled slightly. "He's pouting," she muttered, already scrolling Instagram for something to distract herself. Maybe she thought I'd come to pick her up, that I'd be there at arrivals with some placating smile, ready to say, "Let's talk about this like adults." That's how she rewrote our arguments, like they were always just misunderstandings that got too emotional. But as she slid into the back of a rideshare with her overstuffed pink roller bag, reality didn't hit her yet. Not when she passed the bookstore we used to visit. Not when she turned onto our street. Not even when the driver paused outside our front gate. It hit when the key didn't turn. She jiggled the lock once, twice, then shoved harder like the house was playing games. The door didn't budge. Her face twisted. Annoyance first, not fear, not yet. She stepped back and tried the garage keypad, hit the numbers, 0-9-8-3. That familiar tone. Denied again. Denied again. Nothing. She stared at the keypad like it owed her an explanation. Dana fumbled through her purse, pulled out her phone and called me again, straight to voicemail. "Marcus, seriously," she said into the air, pacing in front of her own house like a stranger. This isn't funny. She hit redial. Nothing. For the next 30 minutes, she made a circuit around the front porch like a woman in denial, checking under mats, tapping windows, peering in like she might see her reflection behaving better. Her frustration morphed into quiet panic, but still masked under entitlement. That's when she tried Rachel. It rang twice. Rachel picked up. Cool, dry, familiar enough to be polite, distant enough to be noticed. Rachel. Dana exhaled. Thank God I can't get in the house. Did Marcus say anything to you? Like, is he just trying to make a point? A pause. You should talk to the new tenant. Dana blinked. What? I'm not supposed to say much, but if you want to get inside that house, you'll need her permission. Dana scoffed. Who, her? Who the hell is her? Another pause. You'll see. Click. The silence after that wasn't just quiet. It was active, loud in its absence. Dana stared at the phone like it had betrayed her. The front yard, the shutters, the porch swing. It all looked the same, but something underneath had shifted. A layer she didn't know existed had slid away, revealing something colder. She tried peeking through the living room window. Curtains. New ones. Not the beige linen she had picked out during her modern farmhouse phase. These were heavier, ivory, neatly pressed. Elegant. Nothing Dana would have chosen. And that alone told her more than she wanted to know. The doorbell was now her only option, and even that felt foreign, like she was pressing it at someone else's house. So she did, twice, then 3 times, and waited. No footsteps, no familiar creak on the floorboards, just a single flicker of movement behind the curtain. A shadow, a shape, a presence. She stepped back instinctively. Her stomach flipped, and for the first time since that bikini photo, Dana realized she hadn't just pushed a boundary. She'd been erased from it. Dana showed up at her sister's place, still pretending nothing was wrong. I think Marcus changed the locks to teach me a lesson, she said, dropping her designer bag by the entryway like a teenager home from college. He's being petty. Classic overcorrection. He'll cool off. Her sister, Mia, didn't say much, just nodded and handed her a stack of forwarded mail. Dana flipped through it like it was junk. Department store catalog is a credit card offer. One thick envelope marked private and confidential caught her eye. The return address, Clark and Wynn Law Offices. Her fingers hesitated. It wasn't panic, not yet, just a twinge of curiosity edged with something more brittle. Marcus never used lawyers casually. He was the kind of man who thought legal action was for people who couldn't plan. And Clark and Wynn? That was the firm he'd referenced once when they were doing estate paperwork. She remembered the name only because Dana had joked it sounded like an overpriced watch brand. She sat on the couch, tore it open. Inside a 5-page letter, heavy paper, the kind with a watermark, real money paper. She scanned the first few lines, her eyes stumbling over the sterile legal tone like they were tripping on marble. Dear Mrs. Lockach, pursuant to the restructuring of the Locke Family Property Trust, this notice serves to inform you that effective immediately, the lease agreement associated with the residential property at 42 Wisteria Lane has been terminated. Her eyes kept moving, but slower now. In accordance with the stipulations agreed upon in the original trust, which was filed under a non-marital status clause, all property and rights retained therein shall revert exclusively to the sole trustee, Marcus J. Lockach. She sat up straighter. All rights revoked due to non-marital trust restructuring, dated 1 week before her trip. Her mouth parted, silent. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, her thoughts outran her ego. She flipped to the next page. A full property transfer deed, not pending. Filed, not proposed. Executed. Witnessed. Notarized. Third page, an itemized inventory list of everything she had assumed still belonged to her. The house. The second apartment she never asked about. The shared bank account reassigned a post-marital clause she'd signed years ago without reading closely, thinking it was just something their accountant needed in case of estate taxes. Clause 7b. Trustee reserves the right to restructure holdings upon evidence of extramarital affiliation, breach of fiduciary confidence, or abandonment of residence for more than 48 hours without notice. She dropped the packet like it had burned her. Abandonment. 48 hours? She'd been gone 6 days. Her phone was already in her hand before she realized she didn't know who she was dialing for. Marcus wouldn't pick up. Rachel wouldn't say more. Her sister was pretending to fold laundry in the next room, but Dana could feel the judgment vibrating through the walls. She scrolled back to her own Instagram post, the bikini one. The caption, "Cheers to never settling." Now it read like a suicide note in disguise. The room spun slightly. Dana stood up too fast and caught herself on the edge of the couch. Her heart was pounding, not from rage, not from betrayal, but from something worse. Certainty. She hadn't been punished. She'd been replaced. And it wasn't dramatic. It was surgical. Dana didn't plan the drive. It wasn't strategic. It wasn't even sane. She just had to see something. Anything. A crack in the armor. A detail. Out of place. Some undeniable glitch in Marcus's calm little coup. She needed proof that this wasn't real, that this was temporary, that he was bluffing harder than she had. The street was the same. Too much so. The neighbors' cars still lined the curb. The old oak still dropped leaves across their driveway like a yearly joke they never found funny. Even the porch lights on the McCullen house still flickered. Dana thought that would be comforting. It wasn't. It felt like time had kept moving without her. She parked a few houses down, not out of caution, but shame. A sick instinct she didn't want to admit. She wasn't arriving home. She was approaching something like a guest, or worse, a stranger. From the driver's seat, she stared at the house for a full minute, and then she saw it. A movement, slight, barely there. The curtain in the front window shifted. Not pulled, not flung open. Just tilted enough to signal someone was watching. Measuring. Deciding. And then she saw her. The face, mid-50s, poised. Pale blouse. Hair pulled back in that "I'm not trying, but I know exactly how I look" way that Dana used to fake but never quite pulled off. Elegant. That was the word. Not pretty, not hot, not even beautiful. Elegant. It hit her like a slap. Dana flung the car door open with too much force, striding toward the front steps like the pavement owed her something. Her heels clicked like accusations. Her breath fast and shallow, rehearsing some indignant opening line that would put this whole thing back in her control. She reached the door, fist clenched, ready to pound. It opened before she touched it. Anna stood there, composed, not smug, not apologetic, just there, like she belonged, like she'd been living in this house for years instead of 3 days. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice smooth with the faintest edge of curiosity. Polite, professional, lethal. Dana blinked. The script evaporated. "That's my house." Anna's head tilted slightly like she was observing a lost tourist. Then she smiled. Small, real, was one word. No venom, no sarcasm. Just precision. Dana's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She glanced past Anna's shoulder, trying to find something familiar. The hallway rug was gone. The coat rack was gone. The mirror she bought from that overpriced boutique in Denver, gone. In its place, a large canvas print of a mountain lake. Still neutral, clean. Anna didn't move, didn't offer her the threshold. She just stood. Dana tried again. Marcus. He didn't say anything. He can't just. Anna nodded once, slowly. Everything filed, notarized.
I have the lease. Would you like to see it? Dana's lips twitched.
I don't need to see anything. Anna shrugged. Suit yourself. And then, just like that, she closed the door gently. No slam, no flourish. Like she was sealing off the past. Dana stood there, fist-balled, eyes hot, face burning. She wasn't just locked out. She'd been replaced by someone who didn't even need to try. No affair, no drama, no trashy soap opera twist. Just a razor. Quiet, elegant, complete.
Dana picked the restaurant carefully. Not one of the flashy downtown rooftop joints with Instagrammable cocktails and velvet banquets. No, this was calculated nostalgia. A quiet Italian place they used to visit back when things felt solid. White tablecloths, heavy silverware, real candles. The kind of place that whispered reconciliation. She booked a table for 6, even included his sister and Rachel. She thought it would send a signal. I'm still your wife. I still were the last name. As if a table reservation and overpriced red sauce could rebuild what she bulldozed with a Bikini Pic and a caption about never settling. Still, she got dressed like she was going to win something. Soft curls, diamond studs he gave her for their 10th anniversary. A muted silk dress that said, I'm stable, I'm mature, I'm ready to talk. Not the beach glam Dana that Eli encouraged. This was the version of herself she thought Marcus wanted back. When she arrived, the hostess smiled and led her to the corner booth with 6 chairs and too much optimism. Time passed. First 15 minutes, just nerves. She checked her phone 3 times. No new messages. She even sent Rachel a text. Running late. No reply. At the 30-minute mark, she tried Marcus again, straight to voicemail. The waiter hovered, pity in his posture. Would you like to order a drink? Not yet, Dana said, swallowing the humiliation. Just waiting on a few. He nodded, disappeared. She looked around the restaurant. No familiar faces, no one walking in. Just strangers laughing at their own inside jokes while her night caved in one breath at a time. 45 minutes in, the waiter returned. Only this time he wasn't empty-handed. He placed a chilled bottle of wine on the table in Italian red. Her favorite one she and Marcus used to share after good arguments when they both agreed to stop talking and just sip until the silence became forgiveness. Dana blinked. I didn't order that. The waiter gave a polite smile and handed her a small cream-colored envelope. Thick paper, sharp fold, classy. She opened it with a finger that trembled more than she liked. Inside, congratulations on starting over, a former tenant. Her breath caught. She looked at the label on the wine bottle, a vintage from the year they bought the house, one Marcus had hunted down for months back then, saying, if we're going to age together, might as well drink something that knows how. Dana stared at it like it was radioactive. The waiter, still lingering, added, it was dropped off earlier today with instructions to deliver at the 1-hour mark. You're free to keep the table as long as you like. She nodded, her throat dry. Thanks. As he walked away, the couple at the next table whispered. She knew they recognized her. The dress, the silence, the empty chairs. It was all too loud. Dana sat there for another 10 minutes. No one came. Not Marcus, not Rachel, not even Mia. She poured herself a glass of the wine. It tasted like ash.
Not because it was bad, but because it was chosen without her. Tailored to her taste, delivered on cue, wrapped in the kind of message that made her realize she wasn't being punished. She was being dismissed with style, with timing, with the kind of cruelty that wears silk gloves. Mocked not by rage, but by precision. The wine sat unopened on the kitchen counter of her sister's guest house. Dana hadn't touched it since the dinner. Couldn't. It looked like it was still smirking at her, taunting her with curated memories and the cruel elegance of someone who knew exactly how to leave a mark without ever raising their voice. Now, it was 2:43 a.m., and she was wrapped in a robe that wasn't hers, on a couch that wasn't hers, in a house that wasn't hers. The glow from her phone was the only light in the room. Everything else was shadows. She scrolled with trembling fingers. Eli's Instagram. Nothing. Well, not nothing. Just nothing of her. No photos, no tags, no cheeky captions, no sun-inched grins where she's throwing up a peace sign like she's 25 again. Not even a blurry side shot. Instead, there was her, not Dana. Her some brunette in a black one-piece with legs for days and annoying smile, tagged at a rooftop bar in Cabo, holding the same pineapple cocktail Dana had posted 3 days earlier. Except this one looked like she wasn't pretending. Caption: Some people get better with every flight. Smirking face, airplane, tropical drink. Dana zoomed in. His arm was around the brunette's waist. Not playfully, possessively. Her stomach churned. She backed out, checked the date. The photo was posted 8 hours ago. They were still there together. While Dana was sitting in borrowed silence with an inbox full of absence, she fired off a text to Eli. Seriously, what the fuck? Is that no reply? She waited 30 seconds, a minute. 3, typed another. Was any of that real, or was I just your placeholder? Still nothing. She switched apps, opened her photo gallery, scrolled through the vacation pics she had taken, each more performative than the last. Dana in sunglasses. Dana by the pool. Dana with the caption she thought would sting. Cheers to never settling. Now the words echoed like a taunt from her past self. She whispered them out loud, mocked her own voice, tried to laugh, couldn't because settling. Settling would have been safety. Settling would have meant the man who made coffee without being asked, who always parked her car facing out so she wouldn't have to reverse, who remembered her mom's birthday even when she didn't. Marcus wasn't the punishment. He was the shelter she burned down to feel wanted. And Eli? He was a vacation. She tapped back to the wine photo, the envelope. Congratulations on starting over, a former tenant. Dana never noticed how cold those words were until now. Not because they were cruel, but because they were precise. Final. She looked around the room. No frame photos, no flowers, no warmth. Her sister's space was clean but sterile, meant for temporary things. And Dana had become just that, an overnight guest in every chapter of her own life. She checked her phone again. Still nothing from Eli. Still no reply from Marcus. Just a blank screen, and her own caption frozen in the feed. Life's too short to settle. She whispered it again, softer this time, and then let the silence answer, because nothing answered louder than being forgotten. The air was heavier that morning. Not weather, not season. It was the kind of weight you feel when you're about to see the final shape of a decision you can't undo. Dana hadn't eaten, hadn't showered, just slipped into jeans and a sweater-like armor, keys in hand before her sister even woke up. The drive was slow, not because of traffic, but because every turn felt like a countdown. This wasn't a confrontation. It was an autopsy. She parked farther down the block this time. No need to draw attention.
Her old routine would have had her in heels, sunglasses, trying to control the scene before it started.
But today, she just needed answers. Something to explain how the man she thought was built from compromise had turned into a goddamn ghostwriter of her eviction. The front gate was open. The garden, her garden, looked better than it ever did under her care. The hedges were trimmed, flowers blooming that she couldn't name. The kind of beauty that didn't scream for attention, just was. And there they were. Anna kneeling beside a flower bed, dirt on her gloves, straw had tilted just so. Marcus stood beside her, holding a watering can like it belonged in his hand. They weren't touching, weren't even looking at each other. But they were synced in a way Dana hadn't been with him in years. No performance, just peace. Anna laughed at something he said. A real laugh, full-bodied, confident. The kind of laugh Dana hadn't earned in months.
Dana's voice cracked before she even reached them.
You moved her in. Marcus looked up, calm. The same expression he used when checking a receipt or setting a thermostat. Not cold, not kind, just done. She signed a lease, he said. Pause. Same way you signed off your place in my life. Dana felt her knees soften. You planned this? A small pause, a breath. A glance that wasn't sharp, just final. No, he said, and turned back to the garden. I prepared. 3 words, and just like that, the house, the life, the years, it all folded. Not in fire, not in fury, in distance. Anna stood, brushed her gloves off, looked at Dana. Not with pity, but with restraint. She knew. She knew the history, the pain, the ghost of marriage lingering between them. But she didn't flinch, didn't step back. She didn't have to. She'd been chosen through silence, through design. Dana wanted to scream, to cry, to say something sharp, cutting, memorable, but all she could manage was a whisper, pathetic and small. She's boring. Marcus didn't even look up. You said that once, he replied, right before I realized. Boring stays. He turned then, only halfway, enough to meet her eyes. No rage, no regret. You made your move, he said. And with that, he turned back toward the garden, toward the woman she once mocked, now pulling weeds from the soil of a life Dana never bothered to tend. Dana stood there, shrinking by the second, in a home that no longer remembered her name. Not lost,